guys, what's going on? It is Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Hope you guys are staying safe and healthy out there in these uncertain times. Obviously, this channel isn't going anywhere. I will be having a daily or, maybe missing a day here and there content for you guys here on my main channel covering Clash Royale and on my Raid Shadow Legends channel as well to get you through these times, whether you're on quarantine or you're just trying to, follow the CDC and the WHO advice. I'm here for you guys. And again, I'm wishing you guys stay safe, stay smart out there, and take all the precautions necessary as, who knows what the next few months or even year has in store for us. Certainly the market not looking too good today. Anyway, on to happier in gaming things. Today we're going to talk about underrated rare champions. I'm going to give you my top 10 underrated rare champions inside Raid Shadow Legends, and I'm going to exclude, well, the obvious ones, like the starting champions, Kayle, Aethel, Elaine, Bellower, Apothecary, Cold Heart, Seducer, who I think a lot of people are hip to and know about now, but maybe I should include him, I have no idea, but I just tried to pick the most popular ones searched for on Google and YouTube, and excluded those ones, so I'm going to cover 10 other ones as well, like Ward Maiden also isn't on here, a couple others as well. Marked, I took off as well, so Marked and War Maiden, don't expect those to be here as well. So let's go ahead and just move into the list. The idea here is to give you guys a heads up on champions that you pull that you might not want to use as food or trash. Maybe take a second look at these rare champions, and if you like this idea, I'll do another video follow up on legendaries and on epics. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So first off, we're going to start out with the newly buffed Frozen Banshee. So Frozen Banshee, as with all these champions, I will tell you where they're underrated inside the game. And Frozen Banshee is just unbelievable in clan boss after this buff. Let's talk about her. So on the A1, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has an 80% chance or 100 when booked of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns if the target is under poison sensitivity. So you build her in a really strong poison team, and then you're dealing so much extra damage on all of your poisons on clan boss because of the poison sensitivity. She's insane. So where's the poison sensitivity? It's on the A3. Check it out. Well, on the A2 here, attacks one enemy, fills a turn meter of all allies by 2% for each debuff on the target. That's incredibly helpful as well on clan boss because you're going to get that turn meter manipulation up 20% when full debuffs are on the clan boss. That's really insane on a 3-turn cooldown when booked on the A2. And the A3 attacks one enemy on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Definitely need to book your Frozen Banshee, right? But rare books, easier to come by than obviously epic and legendary. Attacks one enemy, places that 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 2 turns on the 3-turn cooldown. That's going to help her land her A1, but more importantly, that's going to make all your other poisoners be doing so much more damage for every single tick, every single turn of their poisons. She's really, really solid. Her reviews right now are a 4.7 in clan boss. It should be 5 because she's great. Even, transcends the rarity issue of being a rare or an epic or a legendary. She's great no matter what rarity you're comparing her to, and she's easier to get. So Frozen Banshee, number 1 on the list. So number 2 on the list is a champion that no one really talks about, at least that I have seen, and it's Soulbound Bowyer. So Soulbound is really, really cool, guys, especially for rare in the arena. This is an arena-specific champion that you don't want to use as food. So check her out here. On her A1, an AoE attacks all enemies, has an additional 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit. Now I'm going to stop repeating it every time because the 25% of inflicting a critical hit is on all of her abilities. So you only have to build her with 75% crit rate, which allows you the luxury of putting crit damage gauntlets on her to be a real damage powerhouse, okay? And then on the A2, she has attack one enemy and then has an additional 25%, we'll stop saying that every time, it will ignore 75% of the target's defense. Super solid from a rare in the arena, 75% ignore target defense. And on the A3, again, has that chance and also has a 75% chance of fully depleting the target's turn meter. Soulbound Bowyer Dude, she's sick, man. She is a really, really solid champion. Soulbound Bowyer, Barbarian Spirit Affinity. Don't sleep on her. Number 3 is Runic Warder. Runic Warder we talked about in our Fire Knight video. He's amazing in Fire Knight and just, you know, specialty in Fire Knight, but you can use him other places in the game as well, but especially Fire Knight because he has reflect damage ability. So he's a dwarf, obviously. His A1 just attacks one enemy 2 times. All his damage is based on HP. I love champions whose damage is based on HP or defense because you can build them to be both a robust kind of tanky unit and put out a lot of damage too. It's perfect. On the A2, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. And then on this A3, like I told you guys, 15% reflect damage buff and a 7.5 continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. So Runic Warder is actually really kind of cool, versatile kit, especially for a rare champion. Next up is Reliquary Tender. Reliquary is really cool. She's our first Void champion on here, and she's a great support champion. On the reviews here, she has a high Dragon Slayer, Clan Boss, Ice Golem, Void Keep, all the keeps really, and Minotaurs as well. So attacks one enemy, 20% chance of placing a 25% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. This is where you can really utilize her in Clan Boss as well, especially if you book that up to what, an additional 30% chance, so 50% chance on the A1 of getting the weak version of decrease attack. If you don't have any other champion with it, especially on their A1s, really solid to use her. And on the A2, it's kind of a mini Bad El Khazar going on over here on their A2. Removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a 15% continuous heal buff on them for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. So again, really super solid. And then a revival on the A3. Again, she's good for picking up your damage dealers who usually fall first on Clan Boss. Revives an ally with 30% HP and fills their turn meter by 30%. So not the strongest revival in the game, certainly, but definitely solid to have and a really useful kit as kind of a support champion. Again, in Dragon Slayer and Ice Golem and in Clan Boss as well. Also can help your team out just campaign farming if you need that support on your team. Next up is going to be Fencer. Fencer's really cool champion, newer champion, and on the A1, she attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 15% chance of placing a 15% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. So it's nice to have that decreased speed there on the A1. And again, each hit has that individual 15% chance of landing, and that can be booked up to 30% chance when you fully book her out. On the A2, attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a stun, can be booked up to 100% chance of placing a stun, and if the stun is not placed, 20% of the target's turn meter will be transferred to her, which is a really cool ability. She's an arena-only champion, at least I would advise you guys. This is a definitely, if you need, especially with the affinity being force, if you need a good arena kind of damage dealer, she's not going to be your main nuker, but the turn meter manipulation and the decreased defense on the A3, which you can see right here, is really solid with that AoE. So attacks all enemies, and then has a 100% chance when booked of placing a 30% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. This is a really useful ability because not a ton of arena champions. There's a lot, but you know, especially in the rare category, there's not a ton of champions that have the AoE defense down like Fencer does. So I think Fencer is definitely a viable arena champion, especially in the mid game. So next up is a spider only champion and campaign, I guess, and it's Metalshaper. So Metalshaper is not like an S tier, a beast champion, but if your team is dying a lot, there's not a lot of good rare champions that put shields on all of their allies, and that's what Metalshaper does really well. And his shield is very unique in that it scales with his level, his max level, not his HP or their allies' HP or his damage being dealt. So let's take a look at his kit here. So attacks one enemy, 30% chance of stealing one random buff from the target, whatever. But then this is it, place a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns, and the value of the shield is proportional to this champion's max level, and that's on a 2-turn cooldown. And that's the cool thing about Metalshaper, that's why I'm bringing him up today on this list, is on spiders especially, sometimes just having that shield is really useful and can get you through that level that you're struggling on spiders. So I think that Metalshaper can definitely serve that role. when booked up. Again, having that shield buff on all allies for 2 turns, the value proportional to his level, just make sure he's level 60, right, or 50, depending on where you're using him or how far you upgrade him. But having it on a 2 turn is really cool and valuable, I think. And then on the A3, is pretty cool too. Removes, and it helps for Spider again specifically, or Campaign again. Removes all debuffs from an ally with the lowest HP, and then heals this ally by 20% of this champion's max HP, and then places a 25% increased defense buff on the target for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. So again, probably a champion that you guys are not super familiar with. He's relatively new, and you know, I think that people kind of sleep on him. It is a sleeper list after all. Good support here because again, on spiders, you guys know what happens. All those spiderlings end up adding up tons of poisons on usually one of your biggest damage dealers, like Coldheart for me. She always gets loaded up with poisons. He's going to strip away all of those poisons and then heal her up. Kind of a nice reset champion, plus he has the shield on there as well. Definitely makes the list here of underrated rares. Next up is another Fire Knight specialist. It's a Void Rarity Demon Spawn. It's Fellhound. I thought about not maybe putting him on the list because people, kind of the word is out on Fellhound, but I felt like just because of how good he is in Fire Knight's castle that I ought to include him just in case you guys weren't aware, and I didn't mention him too at the top of the video. But anyway, he has an AoE attack on his A1, attacks all enemies, 25% chancing of placing, a 15% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Because of this A1, he's actually useful in campaign locations as well. And then on the A2, places a 7.5% continuous heal buff and a 15% reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns, again when booked on a 2-turn cooldown. Really cool ability, really unique ability, and then places a block damage buff on 1 ally for 1 turn, which you can use kind of in a break in case of emergency type situation, okay? And then defense just in faction crypts on the aura. But Fellhound, definitely a really solid champion. Next up is Spirithost. Spirithost is a dark elf, spirit affinity, obviously, champion, and she can be farmed in stage 4 of campaigns. So she's easy to get. In any difficulty, you can get her from stage 4. So all of you should be able to get Spirithost if you need the abilities that she kind of lends to your team. Now she can be used almost, well, not anywhere, but Ice Golem, in dragons, in campaign locations, and in arena offense as well. And her kit is pretty basic, right? Attacks 1 enemy, heals by 50% of the damage inflicted, so a little bit of kind of a lifesteal built in a little bit there on the A1, and then places a 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns on 3-turn cooldown when booked on the A2, and then removes all debuffs on all allies, and then places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 1 turn on a 5-turn cooldown. So her kit is just really nice and versatile. You can use that block debuffs buff as the kind of the second move in the arena, if you, depending on your speed and what team you have around her. But it's really nice for arena offense, and it's nice to have that increased attack, especially the 50%, the strong version. To have that on a rare champion is really useful, especially in campaign and in those kind of early to mid dungeon levels on all of the dungeons pretty much, except for Fire Knight, because obviously she's only hitting 1 time on her A1. Next up is Coffin Smasher, guys. If you watch my Clan Boss top 10 rares for Clan Boss video, you know that he is one of my favorite, if not my favorite champion for Clan Boss. In the rare category, he is Knight Reverend champion, and take a look at his kit here, guys. He's also really good for Fire Knight, so Fire Knight and Clan Boss, and he's pretty good in like just other dungeons as well, right? But you guys will see. As a 3-time attack on his A1, super valuable for Fire Knight. That's exactly what you're looking for. Each hit has a 15% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns, and that can be booked up to a 30% chance as well. So really beneficial too on Clan Boss, right? So each hit has a 30% chance when booked, each one of those 3 hits, or you guys can do the math, right? So attacks 1 enemy, 50% chance of placing an HP burn for 2 turns on the A2. So again, having that built in there, 75% chance when booked up. So the HP burn really valuable as well for, of course, Fire Knight, but of course, Clan Boss. And then the passive is decreases the damage enemies inflict with AoE attacks by 5%. Again, really valuable for both Clan Boss and Fire Knight. So really super solid. I'm a big fan of Coffin Smasher, of a Magic Affinity Knight Reverend. Alright, and last on the least, guys, is Painkeeper. I included Painkeeper as my 10th champion today because of her kit. It's just so versatile in so many different locations in the game. But I do want to throw a few honorable mentions. There's a lot out there. There's War Priest, there's Veteran, there's... oh my god, there's so many actually now that I look at my list here. There's Hexweaver and Executioner and Fleshmonger and Fellhound. People who say there's no good Doomscreech, people who say that there is no good rare champions are crazy, because there's a lot of really versatile rare champions, and you know, if you kit them correctly with artifacts and you choose the right masteries, you look up guides and whatnot, you can really do some amazing things, including even clearing level 20 dungeons with these rare champions. So definitely you can get a lot of value out of these rares. So you know, shout out to all the honorable mentions here on this video. I could probably do a top 20, right, of underrated rares. And again, Painkeeper is a rare that a lot of people know about, but you know, I don't know, I don't feel like she's in the upper echelon when people talk about like Apothecary and Kales and stuff like that. Anyway, attacks one enemy 2 times, fills the champion turn meter by 10% on the A1. Nice to have that turn meter fill on there. An AoE, and then heals all allies by 15% of her max HP, and it scales off of HP as well, and attack. So really want to build her with a lot of HP. Interestingly enough, the A1 scales off of defense in HP on Painkeeper, and then decrease the cooldown of an ally of all ally skills by 1 turn on her A3, so combat tactics, and that can be all the way down to a 4-turn cooldown when booked up. That's really beneficial, especially against clan boss as well, just consistently every 4 turns, bringing down the turn meter of all of your other allies. So she can be used, Painkeeper, in so many different areas in the game. Clan boss, you can use her in miniatures or in campaign locations. You can use her in faction wars, obviously, in let's see, a dragon, spider, ice golem, fire knight, because of the 2 hits on the A1. So she is kind of a jack of all trades. You can make the case that in Clan Boss she's kind of top tier for rare categories. But anyway, guys, that is my list of top 10 underrated rare champions inside the game, and where I feel like they're actually underrated. Let me know what you think of my list, and let me know, besides the honorable mentions, who I forgot or who I was crazy for including. I appreciate you guys watching all the way till the end. If you have another kind of ranking video or any specific champion that I mentioned in today's video that you would like to see a full champion guide on, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.